Looking for your next investment round? Find out how to negotiate to get the most out of venture financing. Do you have the right strategy? Should you go for private equity or an IPO? Join our experienced investors, financial, and law experts. Learn how to improve your negotiation skills to get what you want, and learn what goal to keep in mind on your entrepreneurial journey.
We move on now. So when I say to you getting funded, I'm sure certain things, certain ideas are kind of spinning off in your mind. But when I say to you, or if I ask you, why are women founding teams outperforming men's founding teams? Now, I can't answer that question at all. I have a few ideas, but I can't answer it. But hopefully in this next panel discussion together, we'll answer that question with many more as well. So I'm going to hand you over now to the woman who's actually going to, again, make sense of this whole panel discussion as the moderator, taking it forward. So welcome from Poland, Managing Partner of Xperia VC, Kinga Stanisławska. Kinga, are you with us?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Great
Hello.
to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Hello, Kinga. How are you? Where are you right now? Where are you in Poland right now? Where are you?
Yes, I'm in sunny Warsaw.
Sunny Warsaw. That sounds sunny. We don't know what the weather is outside of these walls here in the studio, but we guess it's sunny, but seeing you brings a little bit of sun to our studio. I'm going to hand it over to you now and talk to you a little bit later on once we find out the answer to that question.
I'm a managing partner of Xperia Venture Fund, investing in software from Warsaw. I'm also the founder of European Women in VC. It's a platform on LinkedIn, which you are all welcome to join. It's not for women only. It's also for men who believe in diversity, who believe in value creation together. And it's under European Women in VC on LinkedIn. And I'm also an independent investment committee member at EIC Fund, which is Europe's new deep tech fund just set up last year, with a 4 billion capitalization, investing up to 15 million per startup under a co-investment model. Super happy to see all the deep tech startups out there joining and applying to EIC funds. So happy to also provide information on that. The reason we're here today is to discuss what it's like for women in venture, women in startups, women on boards to raise money. Now, the idea to team up today in this panel discussion came a little bit inspired from a recent publication that Xperia and Unconventional Ventures did together about the funding in the CEE region through the lens of diversity and positive impact. It's a report that was issued in March together with well-renowned partners. The data came from Dealroom and Invest Europe. And what we found was actually that in 2020, only 1% of all invested capital from venture went to female-run, female-led startups across Central and Eastern Europe. And actually 94% went to all-male teams. That year was no different to any previous year, where again, the role of women in being able to fundraise from angels, from funds, is very, very small. We're talking about a marginal percentage of 1, 2, 3%. This case is true right across Europe. So Central Europe is no different than anywhere else. However, what's the good news? Well, the good news is this, that women-funded startups generate more revenue per euro invested. And actually, for Central and Eastern Europe, this number is nearly 2 times better performance for female-led. This number is actually higher than for Europe. In the Nordics, we had 50% better performance. And in general, studies have shown that female-led and mixed teams do outperform. So this is one of the avenues of discussion today. The other one is because we have two investment partners on the call with us today. We have Tatiana and Zaya, who are looking at the market from the investment side. And here, what is interesting is that, again, the huge percentage of venture capital funds and venture capital money in Central and Eastern Europe is managed purely by all male teams. Female partners are very rare. Female-only funds are also super rare. But anyway, when we have an all-male team, what they will have in addition to just the fact that there's more of them is they will have much more in terms of firepower. So their assets under management are 5 times bigger than female-led funds. And that means that they can follow on in investments and build more value for their shareholders and thereby probably generate longer term better returns because they just simply have the money and it is a money's game. And the final conclusion from our report was that unfortunately diversity has not been a big priority for limited partners. It's very rare that females fundraising or males are asked the question about composition of the general partnership or the composition of the investment team. So this is huge work to be still done. And with these conclusions, I'd like to kick off our discussion today. So I have the pleasure of welcoming to our panel this afternoon, Tatiana, Arta, Zaya, and Giga. And I would like to perhaps ask each of you to just give a quick round of intros in that order. Please, Tatiana.
Okay, thank you. Great to be here with all of you. So I'm Tatiana Zavasumikos. I'm a managing partner and co-founder of South Central Ventures, which is an early stage fund investing in high growth tech companies operating in the Balkans. In addition to that, I'm also a member of European Women in VC, which Kinga has founded really and initiated. And I'm also one of the experts that are actually evaluating the proposals received by EIC, which also Kinga mentioned before. I've been a VC investor since 2008, when I co-founded the first Slovenian venture capital fund. And since then, I've been involved in quite a few investments, companies, Artas Labbox being one of them. And prior to becoming an investor, I was working in corporate finance advisory, and even before that, in the Ministry of Economy in Slovenia. And maybe just a fun fact about me, I actually majored in marketing and then in management in my postgraduate studies. And I always thought finance was like the most boring thing in this area. And then I somehow ended up working first in corporate finance and then investing as a VC investor. And I definitely find it everything but boring. And I actually find it very exciting. And yeah, that would be it.
Brilliant. Arta?
It's such a pleasure to be here today. I am really honored to be part of this panel, and I know that the topic that we're discussing is of high importance to me as a female founder. I'm Arta, one of the co-founders of Labbox, and I act as the CEO of the company. The Labbox is a subscription service that delivers electronic kits with the goal to inspire kids for engineering. I'm extremely passionate to improve the quality of education. Therefore, my focus is really to open up the engineering world for kids, considering how much benefits and advantage that they can gain by understanding the principles of engineering from an early age and really leveraging the power of technology for their future. I have a computer science engineering background and over 8 years of experience in working as a developer and a software architect. And I really enjoy the work that I end up doing today because I have also a personal motive to work on this. I'm also a mother of three. I guess this is a fun fact about me. I have three daughters. So being here and discussing about the topic and discussing about this topic is really something that I'm looking forward to. And hopefully we will be able to raise awareness about how important it really is. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Arta. Zaya, you're in London. Tell us something about yourself and your current projects.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Kinga. Pleasure to see you again. Hi, everybody. My name is Zaya Kadarova. I work for EBRD's Direct VC arm. It's a 250 million euro fund, which invests in early stage tech startups across Central and Eastern Europe, the former Soviet Union, as well as MENA. So we typically invest at Series A, Series B stages in founding teams that are either originally from CEE or have tech development based in CEE or MENA. I've been doing this for about 4 years now with EBRD, and previously I was at Morgan Stanley doing investment banking. My educational background, I started in computer science in the first 2 years, and then I found it quite difficult and challenging, and I switched into finance. And I'm happy to sort of talk a bit more. I think it's quite topical. In terms of like the attrition that happens at an early stage from, sort of engineering, computer science programs, and that's something that I've experienced myself. So, and then went into finance and spent a lot of time working in very sort of what we call male-dominated environments, such as M&A, investment banking, and now VC. I'm very happy to be here and talk about this topic.
Thank you so much, Zaya. And last but not least, Riga, hello.
Hello, dear ladies. So my name is Giga. I'm honestly asking the whole day if I'm the only brave or the only stupid man being enough kind of like brave to say yes, being part of this discussion, but it's a pleasure. The equality as such was always my topic, and I will definitely speak a little bit more later on about Symbiosis project, which started with very personal story. It ended up being the biggest intergenerational project in Slovenia. But in sense of business, last 6 years were dedicated to Outfit 7, known for Talking Tom. I used to be a chairman of the company, so I experienced also the gender topic from fast-growing company and from the top management position, and trying to be responsible in that regards. Probably the organizer said, you are enough men that you can talk about women and the gender equality at this stage. So happy to be with you. It will not be an easy task for me, but I have my fingers crossed.
Well, we all look very much to hear more on your story there just shortly, Riga. Thank you so much. And without further ado, I'd like to just start perhaps with Tatiana, who leads a VC fund. Could you just say a few words why this topic is important and why now?
Well, the time is always right. So that's why now. But I think generally what I would like to say is that I always believed in mixed teams, and I always enjoyed working in mixed teams. And I still think that, we should be able to derive best from both worlds or all worlds and, work for the common goal. Saying that, I think I somehow found myself working quite a lot in male-dominated industries, and that's true for my previous jobs, I would say, in corporate finance, and equally now in VC. Even though these are some industries where I don't think there are some really physiological or psychological differences between men and women that would actually require this kind or cause this kind of difference and such a gender distortion, I would say. And as we discussed also with Kinga some time ago, there are very few industries that are actually all that distorted in terms of gender balance. Maybe some mining or construction workers and stuff where, you know, the reason for these differences is quite obvious, I guess, and it is actually related to physical strength. But I believe that the society is simply missing out if the women are not included on all levels of, you know, in all the chain of value creation, let's say. And if we stay with, and this is not just true, not just gender balance, it's also other kinds of diversity. But if we stick with gender balance, I think in terms of attracting more investments to female-led startups, companies, I think there was quite some progress we've seen in the past few years, although far from being you know, where we want it to be. But nevertheless, there are some steps that have been taken and have resulted in, you know, a trend that's positive and leads to the right way, to the right status. But I would say that, you know, this should be the norm, that we have equal opportunities and that this is somehow, there's somehow equal allocation, let's say, of resources and opportunities to men and women. And somehow I think it has become more natural for women to be looking for funding and also to be receiving funding. But on the other hand, what we can observe is that actually, you know, more than half of the population are women. But then, as Kinga presented, you know, the flow of VC funding and also the, you know, the all levels of the management and investors, it's also very small percentages are actually managed by women. And the fact that women should be represented more, I think, is based on, or is important from, let's say, two aspects for me. If there's like a half of the population of women, then it's natural that there are certain companies or certain startups that are offering primarily maybe products or services that are addressing the needs of women. And I think that it's easier for a woman to then understand where the opportunity lies and how you can actually, how big the opportunity is and how well it actually addresses some actual need on the market, for example. And understanding the product, the market, and the market, let's say, trends is probably one of the most important factors when you're deciding on whether to invest or not. So that's one of the aspects where I think, you know, it's important to have a woman maybe looking into an opportunity. And the other fact is that, you know, even though there is a significant portion of companies that are actually led by women, like about 1/3 in Europe, I think, these companies are still getting much less funding, and this might, to a certain extent, be the result of the fact that women are maybe more prone to bootstrapping or finding other sources of finance and not looking for external financing. But on the other hand, then there's evidence that funds with female partners actually are twice more likely to invest in a female-founded company, and even 3 times more likely to invest in a company that has a women CEO, I think. So I think this is really, it shows that maybe there is some kind of bias, and I think that you know, having women leading funds would actually contribute to having more women also asking for external funding, as they might feel better maybe in having a female investors as a counterpart. And then I would say that also, yeah, despite the maybe affinity of women to maybe be more prone to bootstrapping, you know, compared to being externally financed, bootstrapping and organic growth can mean that you're too slow and not influential enough in the market, and that means that you're less likely to succeed. And it's the difference between succeeding and shutting down, winding down the company at some point. And I think as a society, we're missing out if we don't have enough women being financed and being active in the market and actually having more chances of succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Tatiana. Actually, yeah, I agree with you. It starts with where the money is, and the money is right at the top of the chain. So we need to make sure that we work together as a community to convey this message so that startups like the one that Atta will talk about and her fundraising story can succeed in growing faster. We know that companies, startups, in order to accelerate their growth, they need to be funded. They need to be funded for R&D. They need to be funded for sales and marketing and for other purposes. So, Arta, what is your story on fundraising and what have you observed?
I think that on our end, so Labbox is a company being created in Kosovo, and it is a company that is trying to has the ambition to bring globally a new solution that allows kids to learn about electronics and engineering in a very convenient way by shipping out boxes to them. And we do this with a curriculum that we tailored specifically for these ages. Now, from an investment perspective, looking at the company structure, our operations, having a hardware company, we really needed somebody to believe in. Now, a bootstrapping for us was not an option. From that perspective, I've done what all founders and entrepreneurs do, try to pitch my company to the investors looking into the region. I was lucky enough to meet Tatiana because it was truly a beautiful experience for us, for me. We were able to gain the trust with the traction concept and with the idea and energy, I guess, to convince South Central Ventures to invest in us. For us, South Central Ventures is Tatiana. I know that there are other partners, but we are in communication with Tatiana, and she's the one that is supporting us in many milestones and challenges that we're facing. To be honest, at that time, I wasn't aware I wasn't even aware how the investment structure looked like for a female founder. I was just pitching my idea, trying to make it. Now understanding more about the VC world and the way that investors really make decisions, I think that at the core of the decision making is really finding a founder that is resembling a success story that you know of, and that kind of creates a trust component into the story of the founder, and then the decision making about investment are coming in, and understanding how the market is looking like. Most VC funds are male led. They find, and I guess more success stories from the past were from companies led by male, because I'm talking maybe in the last 20 years. Now, what I think the core fight is really having women at the top of the VC funds, finding and understanding the resemblance into the founders of the success stories that they're seeking to co-create together. And then also having strong founders, female founders, women founders that are building these companies, which then stack up the success stories for the others to follow along. I think that this is kind of the structure, and I understand that it takes time, but story by story, we all need, I think from Labbox perspective, we need to be insistent on the success that we envision and dream of. And for that, in our case, it is critical to have funds and investors that support us in this journey. Now, being able to build a company is, let's say, a multidisciplinary skill. And as a founder, you're really challenged with a lot of things, from team creation to how you bring your product, how you build your product, and how you bring your product to the market. And having another, let's say, difficulty or obstacle in this end of investment raising, or let's say just having less privilege, is something that I cannot accept in that sense. So I'm really hoping that the stories that we're trying to build are going to resonate and really be examples of successes that also funds are looking for to invest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Setting an example is absolutely crucial, and that's something that you are super good at. So well done, and in quite adverse conditions, So I think you're doing an amazing job there. Zaya, you are working in a multinational institution actually that operates across various countries, across various asset classes, and in various projects. What has gender diversity been like when you are looking at investments, either with VCs or into startups? What's the story there?
That's a very good question, because I was reading some of the articles that you sent, right? The BCG report, which is quoted in many different places. And it looks like, the conclusion people are drawing is they're saying, this very low % of funding is not due to a lack of deal flow, right? That and Tatiana mentioned that there's 1/3 of startups were founded by females. However, if I am speaking from my experience, anecdotally speaking, right, from the entire deal flow that we look at year over year, it's a very small percentage of startups that we see that are founded by women or are led by female CEOs. And, it's really that statistic for me that from the BCG report and other places was really surprising, because I really don't know where these female founders are, because we don't see them, and it boggles my mind why we don't, is it self-selection that they don't come across, VCs, or we don't come across them? It really really boggles my mind. Because, to me, it seemed like it's also a function, the fact that there's a much lower percentage of funding going to female-led startups, because to me, it seemed like there's just far fewer startups that are being founded and led by females. Mm-hmm. And, I also know a different statistic about, there's a far fewer female, at least that's what it used to be the case, far fewer females going into programs like computer science and engineering and software engineering. And as I mentioned, in my introduction, I sort of experienced that myself when I was in university. This sort of lack of support and lack of female peers in programs like computer science sort of makes you more prone to drop out when things get really tough, because there's just simply lack of support. And I really see this in the stats, and it really resonates with me. So to me, it seems like this attrition starts much younger. Fewer females go into computer science programs, fewer of them actually graduate, and fewer will probably then go into a tech startup or start a tech startup. Because I guess, for the most part, especially in our region, right, in the CEE region, the entrepreneurs and the founders tend to have a technical background. So you simply have, fewer females with the technical background that are starting companies.
Yeah.
So that's been our experience, and it's, if we look at our portfolio, for instance, we only have 2 portfolio companies that are founded and led by women. And I think that is really not because, we have some sort of a negative bias toward females, because, I'm a female and we have 2 other team members that are females. Actually, 3 out of 5 investment professionals in our team are women, but it's simply a reflection of the deal flow that we see. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about less than 5% of startups that we see every year are founded by women.
Mm-hmm. And what about co-investors? Do you see them? Women?
Do you mean women like VC partners?
Yeah.
I think in terms of the VC partners, I think the statistics I completely agree with, that, for the most part, you see a lot of juniors that are females in VC, but far fewer partner level females. I think it's slowly changing in the UK. I see a lot more, women getting promoted to partnerships in the last couple of years in the UK. I think it's a different story in CEE funds. For the most part, they don't even have juniors, female juniors.
So still lots of work to be done. Maybe over to Giga, who run a huge unicorn company in the technology space. So that's one of your hats. The other one is your more NGO hat and the work that you've done there. What has been your experience in terms of the role of women and diversity as a whole in your two different projects?
I think both are bringing me an important lesson for managing and for actually living or observing the life. And the fact is that, even though if you're inside sure that you are this generation that, we don't divide anymore, men, women being equal, it's not so obvious. I will share you a story with Outfit 7 when I used to be a chairman. And often the debate about equality is coming around the 8th of March. And I was like, but, is it really a topic? Is it something that we need to address? The salaries are same. We are bringing, the high percentage of women for IT company. So obviously, it looked that everything works really well. But on the other hand, when I asked my HR team, and they were a little bit surprised because it came from myself, and I said, I think we are doing everything okay, but still, I would like to be sure, when we dig to the topic, we found a couple of things inside the company that were not fair. For example, we found a manager inside who was saying, oh, this lady is leaving for maternity leave, so I'm not thinking about raising her salary and promoting her. And it was like shocking for me, So even though if you strongly believe that you are having this value in yourself and that you're trying to spread it in the culture of the company, you should be always a little bit suspicious and you should always ask questions. Is it really working as it should? And that brings me, to the second topic or my hat, as you said, and that's the project of symbiosis. I used to have lunches with my grandmother, and it started with a very, very personal story, because once my grandmother threw a newspaper on a table and she said, but Chica, what is this www? She was like, it's a shocking for me because I have no clue where is this store. And leaving, her apartment and thinking about the society, I was a little bit shocked, because for me, that was a clear message that we are discriminatory, not only to those who are different, but sometimes to even those who we love the most, our grandparents. So I went back to my NGO and I said, look, guys, we definitely need to do something. We need to show elderly that we respect them. We need to connect Slovenia, and we need to definitely bring the positive glue of society. So I think diversity as such should be included everywhere. One of the topics that I'm bringing often nowadays is that I'm missing the boards or even supervisory boards of more young people. Because the topics of digitalization, the fast movement of the world is so approaching. And, can you imagine having a company where in the board only 65 years old men are sitting? First of all, it's completely boring thing, but secondly, it can never address all the needed things that the company needs to address nowadays. So for me, the diversity is the name of the game. I always think that the governments, the boards, the supervisory boards should include way more gender equality, way more differences in sense of ages, in sense of nationalities. Being a Slovene, I'm often criticizing that we are having again boards only of Slovenians. So one of my small victory in Outfit 7 was that we had at the time I was chairman 28 nationalities. So all these things are important, but one thing that I learned quite hard way is that nothing is obvious. Don't think if you believe or you are sure that something is working 100%, don't stop asking questions. Don't surround yourself with the people who have doubts and who are challenging the situations in the company, but if you want, also in society.
That's a great story there, Shiga. Actually, what all of you have said makes me think that when people are conscious of the idea of having gender diversity as a whole, of being inclusive, they seem to be working on just better projects that are doing good things for the world, projects that want to deliver future, want to deliver education, want to deliver sustainability, want to make sure that we're all including each and every part of the society. And I think that's what all of you today represent. So it actually makes me reflect on that. And if we want to have a future where we are happy, whether we are kids, we are women, or we are senior citizens, or we come from different backgrounds, then it seems that betting on women and giving them the ability to deliver that society just seems like a better idea. And we don't have enough of that. So that's the kind of thought that actually inspired me from what all the four of you said. And since we don't have much time, I would like to ask each one of you, if we do have a chance to be invited to Podim next year and we meet on the same panel, what would be the one wish, the one change that you would like to see in the world around you, or in your sector, or in the work you're involved with, that would be a dream scenario that we can discuss as a big success next year? Maybe I'll start with Tatiana.
Yeah, well, there's quite a significant discrepancy between what I think should be the case in a year and what I realistically think that can remotely be done in a year.
Tatiana, only dream scenarios, to the moon.
Only dreams. So let's say that we have at least half of the investors that are present in Podim are women and that actually have funds to invest. And so this means they've raised funds that they can invest. And that the statistics show that in 2021, female-led startups raised, I don't know, half of the funds in the year. That would be the dream scenario, but I'm pretty sure that this will not happen next year quite, but maybe in a few years' time.
Let's start working towards that. Arta?
Well, I would really, I'm going to share a part of the wish with Tatiana because, as I said, my story is I have a partner in a fund that decided to invest in us. So these kind of links to be created much more VC partners to invest in more female-led companies, but also from a personal perspective, I would like next year to talk about how Labbox received a huge investment and is really on the way to achieve great success.
That's brilliant. I also wish Labbox all the best in 2021. And Zaya, what about you? What would you like to see?
I would really like to see a startup that's a huge success, on par to UiPath coming out of Central Eastern Europe, but that's founded and led by a female, because I think we really need more role models, as we mentioned before, to encourage new generations of women to become entrepreneurs. I mean, we have some examples, right? There was a IPO of PensionBee in the UK, which is led by a woman who's originally from Bulgaria. Obviously, in the US, there's a story of Whitney Wolf, the founder of the not Tinder. What's the other one? Bumble. So in similar story to that of Bumble, something like that in CEE, I think would be amazing. I can't think of one potential candidate at the moment, unfortunately. So I'm not sure how realistic it is to have that in a year. But in the coming years, let's say, I think it would be amazing.
That would be great. Actually, a part of that sort of came true with Outfit 7 because one of the founders is a woman. And that's a unicorn company. So it's wonderful to see that. What would you like to see, Giga, happen?
I will allow myself to go a little bit out of the business. And if you probably ask not only the kids, but even us, who are today the role models in global politics, I'm sure that probably the German Chancellor and the New Zealand Prime Minister, or even the Finnish Prime Minister, would come out as the role model. So it's obvious that we need also way more women in politics. So, if you are asking me about the dreams, then because Slovenia will vote for the new president, I would say that for me, the dream would be that 5 amazing women would run for the presidency, and that I will have a sweet problem choosing which one should be the best to run Slovenia in the future.
That's a brilliant story. Thank you so much. Me, from myself, I would like to do the next CE report next year and see those numbers change, see those percentages go up, and see a much, much longer list of projects at the end, which are female-led. And like all of you, I'd like to see that change happen in 2021, when we can work all together and generate that change and try to make it just a little bit different, just a little bit more than in 2020. Thank you so much for today's panel. It's been a pleasure to host Tatiana, Arta, Zaya, and Giga. Thank you, Podim, and hopefully see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kinga, and your panelists. Listen, I have to say, I've been listening to to your whole conversation. It was more of a conversation than a panel discussion, because the vibe between you, just listening to your comments and insights, really grateful. Actually, stuck around and listened to what you had to say. So some great insights. And remember, everybody who was looking at this, or even if you've missed it, this will be recorded and you can watch it again and again and again, and really listen to some of these great ideas and also insights as well. So panelists and Kinga, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right, we move steadily on now. We're coming to the end of this session block, and at 3:30, in fact, 3:30, we'll be moving on to our next block, which is all about digital economy. Don't miss it, and see you back at 3:30 here in Studio 2.